Okay, if you watched any of my other videos, you'll notice that I use some graphics at the beginning and the end of the videos for backgrounds, for titles and credits and stuff like that. And I use several different ones for each of my videos, and I'm going to show you how to create your own if you want to. Again, more free software. This time we're going to use a free software package called GIMP. So before we get that started, I have a folder here, and I have a background image. This is my background image that I want to use for the graphic. And this here is it's kind of our society logo. We call it the Day Frog, but that's kind of our society logo. And these are the two graphics I'm going to use to create those. So we're going to use GIMP, and let's get that started. GIMP stands for the GNU Image Manipulation Process. Some people call it the Graphic Image Manipulation Program, but it's a free open source program. It's very comparable to Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop. Adobe Photoshop, I actually own a license for it, and that's what I use all the time. But GIMP is free. It's incredibly powerful, but you can fairly easily, without too much complication, create your own graphics. So here's GIMP running. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a new project. So I'm going to do File, New, and I could choose templates here, and they have all kinds of different templates for different paper sizes, as well as different standard page sizes for the US. Toilet paper, now there's an interesting one. We're going to go down here to video size, and we're going to do 1920 by 1080 full HD 1080p. That's the one we want to use. So here's our blank graphic, and whoops, I shouldn't have done that. I want the opacity of that to be clear, transparent. So that's what I want. I want a transparent background. So that's what the checkerboard means. It means there's nothing in it. Now, quick tour of GIMP. Up here are our toolbars. This is our move tool. These are the ones that we'll be using. This is our move tool. This is for zooming in and zooming out. This is our text tool for putting text on. This is the eraser tool. We might use that. And this here, this is what they call the fuzzy select tool. In Photoshop, they call it the magic wand. And this is our bucket fill tool, our paint bucket tool for filling things in with color. So that's our toolbar up there. Here's where we set our foreground and background colors. And down here, on this section over here, this is when we have the tool selected. This is where we set the attributes for the tool. Now, the reason why we want to use GIMP to do this is because, just like Photoshop, GIMP uses layers. And this is where the magic and the importance comes in. So down here is where we deal with our layers. What we kind of want to do is we want to have a background image, and then we want to put, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 of those Day Frog images on top of it, and then we also want to have some text on top of it. And then we're even going to want to overlay a semi-transparent gray. So you can think of it as, you know, you put a picture on your desktop, and then you take, you know, 2 or 3 of those Day Frogs, and you sit them on top of that picture, and then you put some text on top of that picture as well. So that's kind of how the layers work. So first thing we need to do is we need to get that image into our project here. So I'm going to come back to my folder, and I'm going to open that in GIMP. And I'm also going to come to our Day Frog, and I'm also going to open that in GIMP. So now I have all my assets open in GIMP. Here's my Day Frog, here's my background, and here's my project. So first I'm going to come here. This is my background, and I'm going to do select all, and then I'm going to do edit copy. Now I'm going to come back to my project. So I don't want to put it on the background. I want to add a new layer. So down here, I add a new layer, and that's what I want. I'm going to call it background. No, I'm going to call it main image. You don't have to name the layers if you don't want to, but sometimes it's easy to keep track of them. Again, it's 1920 by 1080. And we're going to click OK. So now there's, and I've selected my background layer. This is the layer I want. So now from here, I'm going to do Edit, Paste, in place. There's my image. Now here's one of the reasons why we use layers. I can turn that off and on. So you see it, you don't see it. Now obviously this image is way bigger than what my project is. So I'm going to hold Shift S and I get these corners. This is for scaling. So now I can take that image and I can move it down. I want to be on, I can bring it up here. Do Shift S again and bring it down. Go back to my move tool. So now I'm way too small. So now what I want to do is Shift S. And I want to make it just a little bit bigger than my project, and you'll see why. So now I want to go to my move tool. Now I don't care too much about up here. We're all about water gardens, so I'm more interested in what's down here at the bottom. So now what I can do is I can move my image up, make sure it covers my project. So this is kind of what I want. I want to be focused on the water feature, not all the trees and everything up top. So that's what I want for my background. Now notice over here in the layers, it says there's a floating selection. That's the image that I've pasted on. So I need to lock that into my main layer. Notice down here, these two are green. So this anchor here, this is going to lock this into that layer there. So I click that and presto, there's my main image. So again, I can turn that off and turn that back on. Now, also notice I no longer see the image just outside of my project. Even though that outline is still there, I don't see it anymore. Now, I want to put my dayfrog in. So let's go to my dayfrog. And one of the things I want to do before I start pasting it, because if I just do select all right now, I'll show you what happens. Select all, edit copy. Now go back to my project, create a new layer, and do paste. That doesn't look very good because of the white background. So I don't want to do that. What I do want to do is I want to get rid of that white background. So the way I'm going to do that is, again, here's my magic wand tool. So I'm going to select that, my fuzzy select tool, and what I want to do is I want to select composite. And this threshold we're going to play with. Now before we do that, I'm going to go to my zoom tool. I want to zoom in because I want you to see what happens here. Yeah, okay. So you see what looks like these little dots all around the outside of the image? That's what's often referred to as the marching ants, because it looks like a line of ants marching all around the outside of the image. That's how the software shows you what is selected and what is not selected. So right now the entire image is selected, everything inside. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use the magic wand tool. We want to use composite. We could choose all kinds of other different things, but we specifically want to use composite because composite is the whole thing. And this threshold we're going to play with. So the first thing I'm going to do is put my magic wand over the white area because that's what I want to select. And I'm going to click on the white area. Now you notice there's marching ants also going all the way around my graphic, as well as around the image. That means it's selected all the white area and none of the other area. Now as I play with this threshold, those marching ants will get further and further away from, let me go back to the move tool, come back here. Will get further away because it's a lower threshold of the selection. And if I get too high, you see now, I'm clicking back on the white to reselect. See, now it's picking things that have even a tiny little bit of white in it. So you need to play around with that threshold to find the right threshold. And I know for a fact it's somewhere around 60. See there, we've got nice tight selection around my graphic here. So now all I have to do is hit the delete key to delete it. I can do cut. Now the white background has disappeared. I have my day frog against a transparent background. Now I can come back to select and do select all. Edit copy. Notice again my marching ants are around the entire image, not just around the day frog. So I've selected the entire image with the transparent background. So now I can come here and I can do edit, paste in place. And there's my day frog. So now I can come to my move tool and I can grab my day frog and I can move him. Let's put him down here. And again, here's my floating selection. So I want to click the add anchor to drop him in. And now I want to create another layer. Make sure I'm on that layer. Do edit, paste in place. There's another day frog. And him I want to put down here so he's kind of right in front of on the lily pads, right in front of the water there. And I'm going to hit the anchor to lock him in. And let's create another layer. Make sure I'm on that layer. And I'm going to do edit, paste in place. And let's put him over here on this rock here. Now he's a little bit big to sit there. So I'm going to do Shift S because I want to scale him again. And I'm going to make him a lot smaller. Grabbing this piece in the middle, I can move him. There, I kind of like that. Whoops. I accidentally hit escape. There, that looks good. I'm happy with that. Okay, again, let's hit our little anchor down here to lock it. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so I'm going to delete that layer. Actually, let's see if I can do undo. Oh, I know what I did. I forgot to click up here. Again, I usually use Photoshop, so I'm not completely used to using GIMP. So there's my section. So now I want to scale it. Okay, now I'm okay. Now I can anchor it. Boom. So there's my 3 frogs. Now, again, here we go. Let's look about why we use layers again. If I want that middle one to disappear, I can do that. See, I want him to go away so that these 2 stay here. And as the credits roll up, I don't have that frog underneath them. I can get rid of all of them. All the frogs if I want to. I can have just 1 frog. So this is why we use a program that uses layers, because we can turn all these different elements on and off. Okay, now we need to put our text along here. So again, I'm going to create another layer. And here's my layer. So now I want to go to our text tool. Here's our text tool. And here's where we choose our font. Now, I've already been doing stuff, so Bookman Old Style is already selected. A lot of programs you'll find, you know, some may only have 1 Bookman Old Style, some might have 2, 3. GIMP has 4 of them built in. And one that I want is Bookman Old Style Semi-Bold Italic, and that's the one I'm going to use for my font. And I want my color to be red. This hinting medium, that's just like character spacing, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. And this is the size. I know it's going to be about 50, but I can change it. I'm going to click Use Editor. That's going to give me a box where I can type. So here's my box, and I want to type in I think I spelled that right. Yep. So I'm going to close my box. So there's my title. And I want to pull these out I want to pull them out so they're just shy of the outside of the project, and you're going to see why shortly. So I want to select the text again. I think I can make that bigger. That's okay. Now I'm going to go to my Move tool, and whoops, that's not what I want. This is what I want. I want my text to be right up by the top. Okay, so there's my text. Now I actually want to put like a drop shadow on this so it stands out a little bit brighter, and I want to put like a yellow drop shadow. So in some programs I could come over here to my font and set some font properties, and one in particular could be that I could say put on a drop shadow. I don't have that capability in GIMP, but there is a way I can do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to right click on that layer, and I'm going to say duplicate the layer. Okay, so here's my duplicate layer. So what I want to do is I'm making sure I'm on, actually I'm going to do it on this lower layer here. So I'm on that lower layer, and in fact I'm going to make that other layer disappear, so it's just my lower layer we see. So now I'm going to come here and I'm going to select all the text, and I'm going to change the color to a nice bright yellow. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the text down, and I need to turn the red back on. You know, you can see behind the red, you can see just a hint of yellow behind it. So I want to make sure I'm on that, and I'm going to move it down. Oh, I got to move it from here, and I got to move it this way. So there's how I do my drop shadow. So now it stands out a little bit better. So that's how I do my graphics. Now I can turn off the text if I want to and have just image. I can come in here and turn off that middle frog. Whoops, that's my last frog. Turn off that middle frog. So let's turn all that back on. So now I also want to be able to have, for credits to be scrolling, I want to be able to have this, but I want to have it like kind of grayed out, so it's not, the colors and everything aren't quite as bright and vibrant. So I'm going to create yet another layer. Cancel that. I want to be up on top here. Now I'm going to create another layer. Also notice when I create these layers, the layer is filled with transparency, so it's not filled with anything, which is what I want to do. So there's my layer. Now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to get my paint bucket. That's my fill bucket. And what I want to do is I want to fill by color. And I want to use my background color of gray. Now I can click on this to select the gray, and I know that in RGB 60 60 60 or in HTML 99 99 99 is neutral gray. It's 50% red, 50% green, 50% blue, which gives me 50% gray. And that's the color I want to use. So I want to use that. So again, make sure I'm on that layer. I'm going to come here and I'm going to, whoops. Oh, click on that little arrow there to alternate them. And now I'm going to fill. There's my gray. And what I can do is I can right click over here and I can do layer attributes. I can turn down the opacity so there's almost no opacity. And I want my opacity to be full. So there's my neutral gray. And again, we can turn these layers on and off. So now we've created our entire graphic, and we've got our background. I've got my 3 day frogs in there. I've got my the name of the society, the text for that, and I've got that gray overlay. So let's start saving these. So I want to turn that gray off. So here's going to be my main background. So what I now want to do is I want to do File, Export As, and I want to select the file type extension. And I'm going to scroll down here and select JPEG, JPEG image. And up here where I title it, I'm going to call it YouTube graphic. And I want to save it on my desktop, and I want to save it in that folder called GIMP backgrounds. And now I'm going to export it. And I want my quality to be 100%. Don't worry about all this stuff. This is really nothing. You could delete that comment. You could even put in here and then click export. And it's got exported. Now let's go back to that file folder and see what we got. So this is my day frog, and here's that background image I wanted, and here's my YouTube graphic. And if I double click that to open it and go full screen, there's my graphic. Okay, there is still more work to be done. So now I want to turn that gray back on, and I want to export, and it still is a JPEG. I'm going to call it YouTube graphic. Gray with text. Export. It's going to pick the same place it's going to export to, and again my quality is the same, my comment and everything, and now I'm going to click export and it's gone. Now I want to turn off my text, and now I want to export it again. Again, as a JPEG. I want to do no text. And I want to export it again. So I want to turn off the gray. Actually, I want to turn the gray back on, and I want to get rid of that middle frog. And now I'm going to export it again. Two frogs. Okay, so now I can turn my gray back off and bring my text back in, bring my frogs back in, and let's look at that folder, see which ones we've created. So there's my day frog, there's my background. So here's my main one. Here's my gray with no text. Here's my gray with no text and 2 frogs. So these are the 2 that I would use to have credits scrolling up from the bottom of the screen through the screen. And then here we are, that's gray. Now what I also want to do is I want to create another one, and I want to create another one that's this brightness, but without the text at the top. That way I can use this to put a title of like an episode title across the top, and I want to export that. Export as, and this time I'm going to call it just no text. Get rid of the gray and get rid of the 2 frogs. Because this one has 3 frogs. Just gray, no text. Export. And again, a saving everything. Export. So now let's go back to the folder and see what we've got. So again, there's my day frog, my background. Here's my main title page. Here's my title page without the text, so I could put other text at the top. Here is a title. And here's all the ones with the gray, 50% gray overlay that I can use for doing various titles and credit scrolls and stuff like that. So that's how I've created my 5 graphics files that I can use for doing my videos. So typically in a video, this graphic would scroll in. I'd have the text, the title across the bottom. I might have this fade into that and put the title across the top. And then this with the title across the top would cross dissolve or fade into my video. And then at the end of my video, it would fade to this. And then it would fade to this, which would in turn fade to this. And the credits would scroll up across the screen, and then this would fade back to that, which in turn would fade back to that, and then the video would fade out to black and music would stop and we'd be done. So that's how it all works. And let me close that. Now I want to make sure I save this project. I probably should have done that more than once, but so now I'm going to save my project. And I want to make sure that I save it to that folder. Get backgrounds, and I'm going to call it YouTube graphic. And it's going to save it as an XCF file. Save. Okay, and now I can see if up here I've saved my project. So now if I quit, oh, those 2 that's my background that I imported in, and that's a day frog that I removed the transparency. I don't care about those, so I'm going to get out of there. So now if I come back to my GIMP backgrounds folder, here's all my graphics that I created, and here's also my GIMP project. So if I wanted to do something else, I could easily come back here, open up that project in GIMP, and turn all these layers back on. Let's say I decided I wanted an even darker background, so I could create another layer. And let's turn that gray off and come back to my fill bucket. And I want to bring, see here, I've got my opacity here set at 50%. I want to bring that up to 75%. And then fill. Now notice how it's much darker than the other one. Now I can play around with these. So I can have one with a that's much less opaque, much less of the stuff in the background showing through, and I could create another one. So if I wanted to, I could come back here and I can make even more changes to this file without having to redo everything, and just keep building layers and building layers and building layers and do whatever I want to. So that's how you do it in GIMP. I'm gonna I'm going to quit this, and I'm not going to save those changes because I don't want that extra layer there that I added, so I'm just going to discard those changes. So there you go, how you can create pretty quick, simple graphics for your videos using, yet again, another free software package called GIMP. As I always do at the end of my videos, thanks for watching, thanks for downloading. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.